Well, I've always been told I know how to talk, so why not transition my radio host skills that I gained in college into potentially podcast skills? Anywho, I'm taking the time to rediscover who I am and pushing myself outside of my comfort zone. I spent most of my life thinking of achievements as linear, in the aspect that you must do good in school so that you can get into a good college, so that you can get a good degree, so that you can get a good job and have a good life and all of that stuff. The past year has shown me that life doesn't always go according to plan. You can't control when the hurdles come, but you can try and put your energy into bouncing back. I thought I knew what career was meant for me at the age of 17, and now I'm starting to realize that that might not actually be the path to happiness and success for me. I've always been wondering why I feel like I must have everything figured out at the age of 25. Why have I been putting so much pressure on myself that I must follow a plan I made for myself over 8 years ago? I have changed so much, and so has the world around me. I've woken up from this dream to realize that I don't fully know who I am and what I want in this life, and honestly, that's a scary feeling, but it's a little bit liberating at the same time. Basically, the point of this podcast is to document the journey of rediscovery and what that means for not only me, but different people. There is no formula for success that fits every person and that makes all of us unique. I hope to not only help myself, but potentially others in this crazy realm of existence that we live in. The first, topic for this first episode is going to be words and actions. I can't be the only person who ends up utterly confused when the words and actions of others don't seem to match up. I know that people are walking contradictions and that I'm not perfect either, but I do often find myself questioning the world around me. My parents have often told me that I can't always put the expectation on others as to what I would do in a specific situation. But I feel like that's a lot easier said than done. For the most part, when I say things, I mean them and I follow through. For example, if I'm someone's friend or I'm friends with someone, I'm more than willing to go the extra mile for them. But I've noticed that in a lot of the relationships I've had, that hasn't always been reciprocated, even when they can claim that they would also do the same in that situation. To me, that is the most confusing thing. Since I would go hard for a friend, it's confusing for me when they wouldn't necessarily be willing to go hard for me. I don't know, maybe one of the main reasons for this could be overcommitment. I know plenty of people who, even though they're stressed and bogged down, they continue to say, oh, yes, I would love to do that, even when they don't have truly any time or energy for that activity. I even see myself sometimes saying, like, oh, yes, that sounds great, sign me up, when internally all I want to say is no, or tell them, sorry, I have too much going on right now. I think there's kind of an obligation to feel, or to sometimes say yes, no matter the cost, even when our body kind of indicates to us that we should say no in that moment. Could it be that maybe people my age are burnt out, or we don't have the energy for things that we truly do care about anymore? Expanding on this, I know that's kind of where my mind was for most of 2024. I love to make crafts for people and also for my apartment, but I found myself not even being able to pick up materials for my crafts, as I wasn't feeling the spark that I used to have. I was so mentally exhausted that even watching a TV show I loved would feel like a daunting task. Currently, I have ebbs and flows where my mind is excited again about making art, which is kind of sad. We should always have energy for the things that we love. We shouldn't feel exhausted by even the idea of doing something that we like. My intention, especially recently, has been to work on a creative outlook every single day. But at times, I find it impossible to do it even once a week. I used to read books all the time, and now it feels crippling to read sometimes even a single page of a book. I start to question, like, where did my love for this run off to, and how do I get it back? If someone has words of wisdom, I'm all ears on this topic. Even the past few days, I have unexpectedly found myself feeling a little bit of alive again, as I'm going through one of the hardest times of my life. I've started writing again, which I used to love, and learning new skills, such as um, Excel points with like VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP, which are things I didn't even know about. Maybe what most of us need is just a shift in perspective. And what I mean by this is that the worst thing I thought could happen to me happened, and I'm still here. I thought I would fall into a pit of darkness I couldn't get out of, but surprisingly, my world didn't end. The universe works in mysterious ways, and I know that's a cliche, but maybe this could be the gut punch I needed to propel me into the best version of myself. The topic of words and actions also makes me think about the lies we sometimes tell ourselves. The main one for me being that I'm happy and everything's okay. I mean, that's the main one I tell in the times where I'm not feeling that, obviously. The thought being that maybe the more I say it, especially to others when they ask, it can maybe make it true. But instead, I feel like it ended up in me gaslighting myself into just thinking things would improve if I put in more effort. Maybe if I put in more energy, I would start to feel a spark again, but honestly, some things may not be meant for us no matter how hard we want it or how much we force ourselves into it. I've tried so hard at some dreams, it's led me to the point of questioning whether or not I thought I was even really for me, honestly. Maybe the reason for saying, I'm doing great, when people ask is more so to convince ourselves than others. Pushing ourselves into a delusion that things are great can result in sometimes more pain when things inevitably fall apart because they're not meant to be. I say this because we can't force things to work just because we want them to. That would be way too easy. What I mean by this is that most of the time we have to push ourselves out of our comfort zones in order to find the right fit. Which, getting out of our comfort zone is one of the most uncomfortable things. Yeah. This is how I've discovered that I might actually enjoy making art, which I once thought I was never good enough to do. Surprisingly, I am quote unquote good enough, where I made some art trades with artists I admire the work of. This never would have happened if I hadn't pushed myself to reach out to them, even though it was a long shot they would even reply. I mean, they're somewhat or are known artists, and I'm just me. You may know that voice in your head that says, oh, I can't be a writer or I can't do art. Well, in this situation, I ask myself, why not? Like, why can't I do this? Is the only reason I'm telling myself I can't do this because I haven't before? Because plenty of people have succeeded before in things that they haven't previously had experience in. One goal I've set for myself for the next week, as silly as it sounds, is to give myself a mere high five every morning. This isn't a new concept that I came up with. It's actually something I saw on a podcast where a motivational expert, Mel Robbins, talked about how even doing this for a few consecutive days can transform you into having a more positive mindset. The positive impact comes from the idea that typically when people are getting a high five, it's only for positive things or as an encouragement. So it's kind of a way of cheering yourself on and letting yourself know, like, hey, you may be struggling right now, but you're crushing it. Anywho, until next time, I hope you all start on your journey of rediscovery if you haven't already. If there's anything specific you'd like me to talk about, feel free to reach out. in the comments if Spotify does comments, because again, I'm new to this whole podcast thing. Also, I'm hoping to have some guests talk about their journeys as well, so stay tuned for that. And thanks for listening.